What's happening, great people? Welcome to the Revolutionary Research Roundtable, facilitated by yours truly, Dr. Rika, episode 2, Self Care Sabbaths. Self Care Sabbaths. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like the video, and share with your community, share with your people, share with your folks. We would love to share all the gems that you all have, as well as myself, with others so that people understand the importance of prioritizing self care. And so, for today's episode, The Power of Healing, we will be talking about healing journeys, and understanding that some of us may already be on our healing journey. Some of us may not be aware that we need a healing journey. Some of us might still be knee deep in our childhood trauma or even our adult trauma. Some of us maybe just practicing healing every day. And so today I wanted to start off, as we always do, with our power word. And our power word of the day is healing journey. Healing journey. So, the healing journey, the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. And so, how many of you have been in ever been in a situation where everything was stacking up, the walls were closing in, your back was up against the wall, the more you kept trying to bob and weave, the more things kept coming at you, you taking hits, trying to block them, but you taking hits, and get to a point where you actually hit the wall, and it is not fun. I've been there. I've been close sometimes prior to being there, but 2019 or 20, actually December 2018, I hit the wall. I was able to sputter for another about 8 or 9 months, but I had to recognize that it had all come to a head. I think one thing about me is growing up in San Francisco, born in Geneva Towers, that's on the Sunnydale side. Grandmother was in Fillmore. Actually, my mother and them grew up in Double Rock. My grandmother moved to Fillmore in the 70s. So by the time I came along, she was in Fillmore. And so did a lot of growing up in Fillmore. From those situations, put on a lot of armor, started to put on a lot of armor that I was even unaware of because I was trying to protect myself, right? You know how they say the survival of the fittest? So in order to do that, you putting on armor. And so what ends up happening is you're exposed to so many different levels of trauma, so many different layers. And so if you haven't, ProQuest has my dissertation. So you can check out what I talk about around even about the layers of trauma that I was experiencing at that age, the vicarious trauma as well as my own trauma. And the generational trauma that gets passed down from your grandparents, your parents, all that line that's in the DNA now, y'all. So I did not have the tools, I would say, to work through the trauma. So a lot of times I had on armor and I would repress what was happening, right? People think that you can sit down and something happens, you may talk about it, you may not, you may write about it, you may not, and it's over. But technically, even with the grief process, I think about, because we lost a lot of people. And I mean people that were young, to accidents, to murder, violence, things like that. But then also, of course, the whole time the old people are passing away and transitioning too. So what I learned to do was just lean on Jesus, just take it to the Lord. And of course, we say we take our burdens to the altar. Sometimes we don't leave them there. Sometimes we pick them back up with us because we ain't really worked it out. But it's what's happening in between there too. The practice that of you working through those emotions, because what I was like, strong black girl, had to, that stereotype. And I had to learn over the years that actually when you cry, sometimes that shows strength. Now, I ain't gonna cry in public. So my grandmother, Gloria Souls, bless her heart, she transitioned in 2020, right after, literally the week after the George Floyd incident. And she had been in hospice for 2.5 weeks. She went home from the hospital, and the family, we did it. We took care of her. Everybody had a night, and some people did the groceries. It was different things that everybody we pitched in. And during those 2.5 weeks, she she got to talk to all of us individually as well as collectively, and kind of pass on some batons and give that final wisdom. But prior to that, let me back up, because I like to jump around. So y'all gotta follow me now. Think of this ain't Think About It Thursdays. This is Self-Care Sabbaths. So the power of healing and healing journeys. And so let me start here. In 2018, I hit the wall. And I started looking for new jobs. I was working, I was the ED of a nonprofit in San Francisco. I started looking for new jobs, thinking I was just going to transition out. And I would get down to the like top three, the top two at one point. Got flew to New York for a position, interviewed fairly well, but I didn't necessarily have the background with the veterans. I had the background with transitional age youth, and these was an organization that helped um, veterans and their families, and then they were expanding to transitional age youth to do these tech programs, and then they would get a job in a tech industry, you know, starting off at 80,000. And I was like, oh, I could do that. That's a perfect, right? I didn't get it. It was me and this veteran actually. He definitely had way more experience with veteran. I mean, my dad was in the army. Definitely a lot of people in my family had served. And I've been talking in undergrad, I actually did a paper on veterans and the impact of the Vietnam War on the women who stayed home, and really around like the drug use and the heroin that the government was giving them so that they could fight the Viet Cong and all of them, knowing that in the nighttime, in the daytime they was their friends, and in the nighttime they was trying to kill them. So just heroin, you get on that, you ain't scared of nothing. But I digress. So that was limited. So I got flew out, didn't get it, feeling like what? How like I'm always in the top two. So I was in a board meeting and some things transpired, and it was like the Holy Spirit. People keep telling me intuition. It wasn't no intuition. It was the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit was like, September 30th will be my last day. And this was like July 12th of 2019. And so the first time it said it, I was like, who said that? I ain't gonna lie, in my mind, I'm like, who said that? Then I came back strong, like September 30th will be my last day. So my board members just kind of looked at me like, okay, I think they thought I was just talking. So I went home that night, that Friday, and I wrote my resignation letter. Monday morning, I got to work. I called my board chair, and she came in and I gave it to her. She's like, oh, you were serious? And I said, yeah, this is it. Like, so had those 2.5 months to kind of transition me out, get things prepared so we could, pass on to whoever's going to take on the position. So that year, my dad ended up having his 70th birthday. He came out. He hadn't been to California maybe in maybe about 8 years at that point. And so he came out and he gave me, we gave him a birthday party. So I mean, good fun. My godparents' house in Hayward. All the family was there. Had a good time. You only promised 3 score and 10. So he checked out 2 years later, or maybe was it almost 2.5 years later. He ended up transitioning too. So we did all that. He got to see my grandmother that time. So this is now October. That was September 13th. So I had a couple more weeks. On my last day, I've been dealing with this back. I was having back issues too. That had been the executive director for about 3 years. I couldn't understand. I go on to the doctor. They can't figure out what's happening. They don't know. All this stress, basically stress. Wasn't sleeping. Go to bed for a couple of hours, wake up, mind just racing. So September 30th, I actually go to my doctor and we look, and I had 2 herniated discs and a pinched nerve. So she took me off on disability. And so I had basically a year to get healthy again. And in that time, I was doing my doctoral program. So doctoral work is a trip. It gives you the language and the words for the things that you experience that at the time you don't know what those are until you actually define them and figure that out. So that was occurring. And in my third semester, the semester that COVID started, we had started the program, and my professor, Dr. G, I'll never forget it. He's awesome. Cal State Hayward East Bay, Department of Education. I mean, not department, the education department, I guess. But social justice is what my doctorate was in for educational leadership. And so he was bringing up, we was doing testimonials, all of these things, pulling stuff out of me that I didn't really recognize what was happening. So I'm trying to do my research and stuff at the same time. And I took the ACE quiz, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And so the first time, I ain't gonna lie to you, I tried to cheat. I was like, well, okay, I don't have to check that one because that ain't. And I looked at it at the end and I'm thinking to myself, well, why am I cheating? It ain't like I'm turning this in or somebody gonna be like labeling me. So I took it again. My ACE score was high. Oh, that ACE score was high. So that was on a Tuesday, the Tuesday prior to the pandemic. It was the 1 week prior. The night before, we had a church anniversary, And there was a reverend there, and he was speaking and preaching. And some of the things he was saying just wasn't sitting right with me. It was kind of, saying some things. And he said something about some stuff, and it upset me. And I know he's seen my face, so I didn't leave out. But next time I said I will. So I was already a little upset with that. And then afterwards, I saw what he drove off in, and I felt some kind of way. So you know me, I'm fussing. So then I took this ACE quiz, and now I'm really like, whoa, like, uh-oh. So that Thursday, my father called me, and he was like, he said he was getting ready to do something. And he asked me, did I have some money? Now he knew I was on disability. It was the fifth. So anybody that know at the fifth, you paying rent. So when he asked me, and I said, well, no, I just did this, but in this, and he said, okay, we got to go by. So that really stirred me up. It stirred me up and brought back some stuff when my dad first left the household back in the early 90s. And I was teaming. I mean, steaming. I was upset and angry, and all of these things were centered around these males. And I'm like, they agitate me right now. So I'm wide open. I go to this speaker series, may have been that Thursday. She started sharing some stuff. So my chest started. I'm telling you, it's a trip. It was like it was opening up. So that Friday, there's had been some stuff happening with our other professor. And so we were going to have a meeting Saturday in our Saturday class, and we'll come to have a talk, before we got started with class. So when I walk in that morning, I had talked to my uncle in New Mexico, my baby uncle. He only like 2 years older than me, Uncle Phil. And we was talking about some things, and he started sharing his testimony. And then I was sharing some stuff about my pops. And then he started to tell me some, have me look at things in a different light. So it kind of gave a little bit of, ointment on what was happening that week. And so we go get to class. Everybody's talking. The teacher is not taking no responsibility. She starts in, and they got emotional. I'm just gonna say that. And of course, sometimes when certain people get emotional, everybody thinks they're the victim when they actually are the aggressor. And so I'm just like, I got tears running down because I'm in this situation, but I'm thinking about all this other stuff that's been happening. And I'm thinking about all the stuff that's starting to bubble to the surface from my own experiences that have been repressed for many years. And I've never been one to show weakness, especially. And if I'm weak, I'm going to go in my closet and get weak there, cry a little bit, get it out, and come on back out and put my big girl panties on and keep going. Well, that day I was like, oh, it was a lot happening. So that was the Sunday before the pandemic closed down. So we go to church, I'm there. As soon as altar call, I mean, I took off running, tears falling down. And I ain't saying I ain't never cried at church, but I couldn't stop. I mean, they was just like waterfalls. So when I got out of church, I said, well, I'm gonna go by my grandmother's because it's in San Francisco too. So I get over there, I call her, she don't answer. The Holy Spirit told me to sit. So I sat there and I listened to a couple of songs, and then she called me back, and she had just got in from church herself. She used to be in her little motorized scooter running over people's toes. Beep, beep, watch out. Like that was my grandmother. So she gets home. She said, hey, I'm up here. Did you leave? And I said, no, I'm down. So I went upstairs and I got in there, and she looking at me, and she like, wait a minute, I thought you said you was gonna bring me some fruit and some. I had told normally I bring her something from Whole Foods, some salmon, some cut up fruit or something, but I didn't because in this moment I had all this stuff going on. So mind you, now I ain't never told her this. She may know now, and she probably said that dang Eureka. But what I did was I put on my recorder on my phone for some reason. Now this is March of 2019. Now I just told y'all she died in June of 2019. So literally 3 months before, I got in there, and for about 3 hours, I talked, and she started asking questions. And I'll tell you, when my chest was, all the things came to the surface and just came out, and I felt just raw. But she would chime in, she would tell a story, I would tell a story, I would say some more stuff. And when I walked out of there, y'all, it was like she had started to she was able to help me pull it all out. And I have the recording. I would never share it. It's for me and me only. That was for me. And let me explain something to you. The woman, that was a powerful woman. You don't recognize how powerful your grandmothers are sometimes until they gone. And when I tell you, this woman believed, and she made sure we believed. See, I used to call her and say, Grandma, I know you can get a prayer through. And she could. And then once she passed, it's like she passed this baton to me. And so now I'm like, I'm going directly to the throne of grace and ask him. Asking it shall be given, seeking ye shall find, knocking the door gonna be open. And when I tell you I have not had to worry or fret, I haven't. And so in all of that, part of my dissertation was uncovering a lot of those things. Literally, my dad passed in January 2022, my final semester of the program. And that July before, July 2021, like about 6 months before he died, my aunt had called me, my auntie Cora. She's the baby auntie, my dad's sister. I better say Lisa. Sorry, Auntie Cora. And she was like, "You better get here." And it was a Friday. And the way she said it, I said, "Well, I got to get there." I started making moves. So I got a ticket. I got down there. And God had blessed me so that I could work 2.5. I mean, I was there for 2.5 weeks. I was in the hospital. So when we first got to the hospital, I had a mask on. So I'm sitting over there, him, me, my auntie, and my dad, and we talking. But he really wouldn't look at me. He talking to my auntie, but he really wouldn't look over at me. And then we laughing about something he said, and he finally go, "Lisa, who is that?" And we cracked up laughing. He didn't know who I was because of the mask. So I said, "I'm your daughter." And he looked and he was, oh my God, he was so overjoyed. So I stayed for about 2.5 weeks with him. He was in the hospital for about another week, and then I stayed at home for about a week and a half, 10 days with him. And when I tell you, my dad shared stuff with me from his own childhood and a lot of things that helped me to understand and have more context around what he experienced and how that impacted his life when he was an adult, when certain decisions, when he felt like he needed to hit the road, all of those things. It gave me more context. And then I started to feel less like I had been abandoned because I had abandonment issues. And the way that I did, what I dealt with that was put on armor. I don't need these people. And what I didn't recognize too, the Lord was with me all the time anyway. He always created a community around me, a village that would support me during these times. And I think for us, we look at other people's walks and what they have, and we compare to that. And it's like, you wouldn't be who you are now had you not gone through that, had I not taken you through that. And so I think for me, it's one, sharing my testimony. And of course, I could give more details. I don't have all that time today to do all that. But in the coming episodes and months and weeks, I'm definitely going to share those stories, those things that have helped me along the journey. And no, I'm not, no, there's still stuff that's repressed. And I won't know that it's repressed until something triggers it. But now I have strategies. Now I have strategies. I don't have to react when I'm triggered. I can take a moment. I can breathe. I can drink some water. I always tell my kids that in schools when they get crazy. I'll be like, "Okay, hold on, calm down. Take some breaths, drink some water, and then tell me." Because them trying to tell me without all that, I don't understand. They jumping all over the place. So, and I can respond. And sometimes not saying anything is a response. That's what I've been learning. And so I think one, listening to other people share their stories and then me making critical sense with that and thinking about my own things, but recognizing the importance of healing because when you hurt others. So we know the saying, you hurt people, hurt people. We got heal people. That's what these self-care Sabbaths are about healing people, about sharing testimonies and stories and concepts that will help people understand the need to heal from their past. I'm Listen, the way I was that week when it all came to the surface, you might have thought I would start hating men, but I love men. And not like that. What I'm saying is I don't hate men. I just don't. Like I know that there's some men that have gone through a lot, so they act a certain way. And when you've had to survive, and I'm talking about in the jungle, then the ways that you behave, I mean, if that's all you've seen and that's all that was modeled, that's how you're gonna behave. Now, I don't condone the behavior, but I don't lump everybody in one category because I know I don't act the same as some another black girl, even someone from my own hood or someone with similar experiences. And so I'm just super grateful that I have created this space for us to share. And no, I didn't give all the tidbits, but if you got some questions and if you got some questions and you want to ask, you want to learn a little bit more about something I said, feel free to drop it in the chat. I'll respond. This is a conversation. Yes, I'm on here and it seems like I'm solo, but I'm talking to you. Yes, you right there that's thinking, is she talking to me? Yes, I am. Self-care Sabbaths is about you. It's about us sharing the strategies, the successes, the triumphs, so that somebody else can overcome something similar or even something different. We all have a healing journey. There's something we have to heal from. I don't think nobody have gone through this life unscathed. So I said all that to say I appreciate you all. It's always a pleasure to be in space with you all to share and talk through and, promote and prioritize healing. And so, since my days as a classroom teacher, I always end with the reflection: head, heart, feet. Head, what did you learn? And it could be something about yourself. It may not be what I said, it could be something that sparked from what I said about you. So, what did you learn? How do you feel about what you learned? What will you do with what you learned? And if you didn't learn anything, that's okay too. Drop some knowledge on the people in the comments section. We can learn from you. We are so grateful to share space with you, especially solid people as yourself who are loving, compassionate, and empathetic to the needs of others. And if all minds are clear, may the Lord watch between me and thee while we apart. Take it easy, be well, and enjoy your life. And until next time, I catch you.